Most people aren't overwhelmed because their lives are truly difficult. They're overwhelmed because they're carrying too much without ever choosing what to carry. You wake up already tired. Your to-do list starts before you even brush your teeth. You bounce between apps, tasks, messages, expectations without ever asking, why am I doing all of this? You feel productive, but empty, busy, but lost, and deep down, you wonder, is this what life is supposed to feel like? Here's the paradox. We chase control, we chase clarity, we chase simplicity. But the more we chase, the more exhausted we feel. Complexity doesn't just arrive one day, it's built. One unchecked habit, one impulsive yes, one ignored. Boundary at a time, and over time, your life doesn't feel like yours anymore. You're just managing the chaos you created. Out of fear. Fear of saying no. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of missing out. Fear of slowing down. Because maybe, if you stop moving, you'll have to feel something. But what if the real path to peace wasn't adding more? What if it was subtracting ruthlessly until what's left finally makes sense? If you seek tranquility, do less. Or more precisely, do only what's essential. Marcus Aurelius. This isn't just a quote, it's a wake-up call, because here's the truth. You can't feel calm while living in contradiction. You can't feel clear while obeying everyone's expectations but your own. You can't feel strong while chasing 100 things that weaken you. So let me ask you something personal. When was the last time your life felt truly yours? Not just managed, not just busy, but calm, simple, whole. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to walk you through 5 Stoic principles that help me rebuild that kind of life, not through hacks or hustle, but through subtraction, reflection, and brutal clarity. And by the end, you might not just understand Stoicism, you might start living it, one choice at a time. Let's be honest, most self-help advice today is just loud noise. Everyone's screaming, do more, grind harder, wake up at 4 a.m. But what if the answer isn't to move faster, but to finally stop and ask yourself a radical question? What do I actually want from life? And what's just noise? This video isn't going to give you a magic hack. It won't promise instant happiness. And I'm not here to yell productivity slogans at you. Instead, I'm going to show you 5 Stoic lessons that change the way I think, the way I choose, and the way I live. These aren't abstract philosophies, they're practical, sharp, and real. If you've ever felt mentally cluttered, if you've ever caught yourself chasing goals that aren't even yours, if your life feels full, but strangely unfulfilling, then this might be the most clarifying 30 minutes you'll spend this week. Each lesson I'll share helped me ditch mental baggage, cut through social pressure, redirect my time to what actually matters, and I'll give you specific actions you can take today to do the same. No fluff, no filler, just brutal simplicity. And if you stick with me until the end, I'll reveal the most underrated Stoic shift that helped me go from I'm drowning to I'm finally in control, not of the world, but of myself. So breathe in, take a moment, and let's begin. Let's declutter your mind. Let's simplify your path. Let's rebuild your life from the inside out. Let me tell you a simple story. It's not about kings or philosophers, it's about a man named Noah. Noah wasn't a failure. He had a decent job, a partner who loved him. He wasn't depressed, just exhausted. All the time, every morning he woke up already behind. His mind was a storm. Past regrets, future worries, endless to-dos. Even on weekends, he couldn't relax. There was always something he should be doing. One day, Sitting alone in his car, he whispered something out loud that shocked even himself. "I don't know whose life I'm living anymore." That sentence, it cracked something open. He realized his life was full, but not full of him. It was full of obligations he never questioned, roles he never chose, and versions of himself he never wanted to become. He wasn't failing life. He was just following a blueprint that was never his. Now, maybe you're not Noah, but maybe, just maybe, you've carried a little too much too. Maybe you've said yes when you should have said no. Maybe you've filled your time to avoid feeling your truth. Maybe you've worked so hard only to wonder, why do I still feel empty? Here's what I learned the hard way. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do what's yours. That's where Stoicism came in, not as a set of rules, but as a way to cut through the noise and return to what's essential. That taught me that peace isn't something you chase, it's something you uncover when you stop carrying what isn't yours. The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. One Epictetus. Noah didn't quit his job. He didn't move to a cabin in the woods. He just started, removing the weights he never needed to carry. One unnecessary meeting, one toxic relationship, one pointless notification. At first, it felt scary. Then, it felt like breathing for the first time in years. So ask yourself this, before we go further. What are you carrying that no longer belongs in your hands? Lesson 1. Simplify or stay stuck. Let me tell you a quiet truth. Most people don't need a bigger plan. They need a smaller one. You're not overwhelmed because life is objectively hard. You're overwhelmed because you're saying yes to too much, without ever stopping to ask, is this even mine to carry? Look around, your calendar is packed, your phone is loud, your mind is full. You wake up already behind, you go to bed feeling like you've run a marathon, but you don't even know what for. And somewhere in that blur of busyness, you forgot what peace feels like. You forgot what a simple life, your life, could actually look like. The Stoics had a word for this kind of chaos: self-inflicted suffering. Not because life is cruel, but because we refuse to subtract what no longer serves us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less. Or more precisely, do only what's essential." Read that again. Do only what's essential. But how often do we do the opposite? We fill our days with unspoken obligations, unchosen priorities, and 1,000 digital distractions that fracture our attention until we can't even think straight. The result? We feel productive, but hollow. We stay busy, but lost. We accomplish tasks, but miss our life. Let me offer you a different way. Don't chase more. Chase clarity. Start with one thing. Something small, but weighty. That recurring Zoom call that adds nothing. That app you open 27 times a day, hoping for a feeling that never lasts. That task on your to-do list you've been carrying for weeks, out of guilt, not purpose. Now ask yourself this, honestly. If I remove this, would my life get lighter? If yes, let it go. Not later. Not when it's convenient. Now. And if your brain resists, and it will, remember this. Simplicity isn't laziness. It's leadership over your own life. You don't simplify because you're weak. You simplify because you're finally strong enough to stop being everything to everyone and just be yourself. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of inner discipline. It's not about controlling others, it's about controlling what you let in. Because when you don't filter your commitments, the world will happily overload you. So today, not tomorrow, cut one thing, cancel it, delete it, release it, not because you're escaping something, but because you're making space for something real. Stillness, clarity, power. That's what's waiting for you on the other side of less. So I'll leave you with this image. Your life, like a blank canvas. Every time you say no to noise, you give your true self more room to breathe, to grow, to speak. Simplify or stay stuck. That's your first Stoic choice. Lesson 2. Redefine success. Stop chasing, start aligning. There's a strange moment that happens to many of us. You get the job, you reach the milestone, you hit the goal, and then, instead of celebration, there's a silence, an emptiness. That's the moment you realize you climbed the wrong mountain. It looked like success. It sounded like success, but it didn't feel like success because it wasn't yours. We've been conditioned since childhood to chase a version of life that doesn't belong to us. Grades, trophies, likes, salaries. We call it ambition, but too often it's just fear. Fear of being behind. Fear of being nothing. So we keep moving, faster, louder, busier, chasing metrics that impress others, while quietly disconnecting from our own souls. The Stoics had a different definition of success. To them, a successful life wasn't filled with applause. It was aligned with virtue. Marcus Aurelius didn't care how famous he was. He cared whether he lived with justice, whether he met each moment with courage, whether he told the truth, even when it was hard. Success, in Stoicism, is internal. It's the quiet knowing that you are living in accordance with your values, not someone else's timeline. Ask yourself this, and ask it slowly. What does success feel like in my body? Not what it looks like on paper, not what your parents wanted, not what Instagram celebrates, but you. When I asked myself that question, my answers surprised me. Success didn't look like 6 figures. It looked like 6 deep breaths between meetings. It looked like saying no to things that misaligned. It looked like walking slowly, thinking clearly, and sleeping well. I had spent years chasing a version of life I thought would make me proud. But the deeper pride came when I started living in integrity with what I actually cared about. And here's where the Stoics offer us a gift. You don't need to do more, you need to align more. You don't need to add, you need to return to your center, your compass, your voice. So here's your moment. Take out a piece of paper and write one sentence that defines success for you. Only one. Make it simple. Make it honest. Make it yours. Because without a personal definition of success, you will always default to someone else's, and that's the fastest way to stay busy and miserable. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Epictetus. So, slow down, pause the chase and ask, is the life I'm building actually the life I want to live? If not, you don't need to run faster. You need to turn inward and choose again. Because true success isn't in the climb, it's in the clarity. Lesson 3. Let go of control. Focus on the inner citadel. There's a kind of quiet suffering that hides beneath control. It doesn't scream, it doesn't panic. It plans, calculates, prepares, and quietly breaks down. Because no matter how hard you try, the world keeps proving one thing over and over again. You are not in control. You can't control how people respond. You can't control what happens tomorrow. You can't even control the weather on the day of your biggest moment. And the more you try to, the more life slips through your fingers. But here's the paradox. Letting go is the most powerful form of control you'll ever practice. Epictetus said it best. Some things are in our control and some are not. That's not a suggestion, it's a map. Because when you stop fighting what's outside your reach, you can finally start mastering what's within it. Your mindset, your choices, your values, your discipline. This is what the Stoics called the metro, inner citadel, a place no chaos can touch, no insult can enter, no outcome can destroy. I used to think strength was about being prepared for every possibility. But now, I know. True strength is being unmoved when things fall apart, not because you don't care, but because you know what's truly yours. You can't own the outcome. You can only own the effort. You can't script people's behavior. You can only script your response. And when you live like that, when you accept that most of the world is not yours to manage, something incredible happens. You begin to breathe again. You begin to think clearly. You begin to feel peace, even in uncertainty. It's not that the chaos disappears. It's that you no longer make it your job to fix. So here's the question I want you to sit with. What are you gripping right now that you were never meant to hold? That apology they won't give you, that outcome that didn't go your way, that future you're trying to guarantee, let it go, not with resentment, but with wisdom. Focus your life around one center. Who you are when everything else is out of your hands. Because that's the only thing that ever truly was. This is Stoicism in its purest form. Master yourself, release the rest. Not because you've given up, but because you've grown up. And that is a very different kind of power. Lesson 4. Own your attention. Reclaim the mind they're renting. Let's get real for a second. Attention is being sold. Every ping, every scroll, every autoplay. It's not an accident. It's a design. A system meant to keep you distracted, disoriented, and dependent. And here's the truly dangerous part. They're not just stealing your time. They're shaping your mind. How you think, what you notice, who you envy, what you fear. Little by little, without you even realizing, you stop being the author of your own life, and instead, you become a character in a story you didn't write. The Stoics would have seen this coming. They understood that the mind is sacred, not a playground, not a feed, a temple, a stronghold, a home. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal to be poetic. He wrote to defend his clarity because he knew you become what you focus on. So let me ask you, and don't answer quickly, what has been shaping your mind lately? Has your attention been feeding gratitude or comparison, inner strength or digital noise? How many hours have you poured into a screen only to end up feeling smaller than before? You're not broken. You've just been hacked, and it's time to take your mind back. Start simple. Create one sacred hour a day, just one. No apps, no notifications, just you, your thoughts, your breath, yourself. Walk without headphones, eat without content, breathe without rushing, sit and be, because this is how you reclaim dominion over your own mind. Set boundaries like your life depends on it, because it does. Turn off what steals your presence. Unfollow what drains your energy. Delete what makes you forget who you are. The world wants your attention 24/7, but your soul is starving for silence. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. So dye it with depth, with purpose, with truth. You don't need to do more. You need to guard what you already have every time you choose intention over impulse. You win back a piece of your power. You reconnect to your center. You return to the person you were meant to be, because in a world that wants your eyes and your clicks and your compliance, the greatest act of rebellion is full attention, don't give it away lesson. 5. Stillness is a discipline. Practice the art of inner peace. Let me say something you may not hear often. Stillness is a discipline. It is not passive, it is not weakness, and it is definitely not the absence of ambition. Stillness is power, the kind of power that doesn't shout, it doesn't chase, it simply stands, calm, rooted, and ready. In today's world, we confuse motion with meaning. We rush from tab to tab, task to task, thought to thought, telling ourselves that we're getting ahead. But ahead of what? Ahead of whom? If you can't be alone with your own mind for 10 minutes, you don't need more tasks, you need more truth. Because here's what the Stoics understood. A chaotic world will never give you peace. You have to bring peace to the chaos. And that peace, it doesn't come from scrolling or reacting or achieving. It comes from within. Stillness is what happens when you stop running, not because you're tired, but because you've finally realized you don't need to run anymore. It's waking up without the need to prove anything. It's sitting quietly and hearing your own voice instead of the algorithms. It's knowing that nothing outside of humans shake the foundation you've built inside. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And there is no greater act of bravery today than choosing to slow down when the world is trying to speed you up. Start small. One breath, one journal page, one evening with no screen, not because it's trendy, but because your nervous system is begging for it, because your mind is ready to rest, because your soul is ready to speak. We think of stillness as something we find, but in truth, stillness is something we build. Brick by brick, decision by decision, choice by quiet choice. It is a practice, a muscle, a craft. And if you do it long enough, one day, chaos knocks on your door, and you don't flinch, you don't panic. You simply look it in the eye and respond from a place of centered power. So I'll leave you with this. Stillness is not a retreat, it's not an escape, it's a return to who you really are. When nothing is pulling at you, that's where you begin, that's where you end, that's where freedom lives. The world is loud, but your power is quiet. Listen to it, so here we are. You've just walked through 5 Stoic lessons, not as my abstract philosophy, but as practical pathways to a clearer, lighter, stronger life. You've learned that simplicity is power, not a lack of ambition, but a form of focus. Success isn't out there. It's alignment with what truly matters. Control is an illusion. What you can master is yourself. Your attention is your life. Guard it like your freedom depends on it. Stillness is a discipline, and every moment of silence is strength in disguise. This isn't about becoming a perfect Stoic. There's no badge, no exam, no enlightenment level. It's about choosing better, one moment, one habit, one small inner victory at a time. In a world that rewards noise, chaos, and endless chasing, you chose clarity, you chose reflection, you chose yourself, and that's the kind of success no one can take from you. So what now? Now it's your turn to act. Comment below. What's one habit you're going to subtract this week? And what will that make space for? Don't overthink it. Just speak honestly. That one shift might inspire someone else reading. If you want to build your life with wisdom, not noise, and you're ready to practice Stoicism, not just read about it. Every week we go deeper, not with trends, but with truth. If your thoughts sometimes take over, this one might help you find stillness in seconds. Thank you for choosing to be here, not just to consume another video, but to slow down, to think, to feel, to remember who you are beneath the noise. So wherever you go after this, carry this with you. You don't have to do more. You just have to come home to what's real, to what's essential, to what's yours. Thanks for growing stronger, wiser, and a little more stoic today.